Hi guys, in today's video we'll be going through how to make one of these game consoles. This is the updated version of the PCB and all of the files are available on our GitHub page for free to download. You can also purchase one of these consoles kits on our website. Enjoy!
So the differences from the previous version are relatively slight. On the switch here we didn't have designation for on and off, and that was added here, as you can see, in gold. Also, all of the pads have been increased as much as possible because this kit is made in generally for beginners to soldering, as well as decoupling capacitors has been added to the driver for the speaker and for the microcontroller as well as this pad for the battery has been greatly increased.
For the first step, it's usually good to put a little bit of solder on one pad. Integrated circuits typically have a small dot or a notch on the casing to indicate pin 1. When placing the IC on the PCB, make sure that this marker aligns with the first pin of the footprint. In this case, it's marked by a white line. And here's a line as tech tips for you. Add a small amount of flux before soldering. It'll help solder flow a lot more easier and it'll reduce the chances for short circuits. Though with this IC, in my case, it was kind of inevitable. This component usually comes pre-soldered already in the kit since it might be a little too challenging for beginners. Here I've sped up the video a bit so you don't have to watch all of it. And now you can see that I've also made a short and I'm trying to remove it. I'm using a soft, thin copper wire and added a little bit of flux on it and it'll easily just pick up the excess solder. Now it's time for the buzzer. Again, put a little bit of solder on one pin and then we will fix the buzzer speaker itself. While flux is great for soldering, it does leave a lot of residue and you have to clean all of that up before moving on. So use a cloth and some alcohol and it'll come right off. And now you can see us testing for shorts. Use the buzzer feature on your multimeter. When you're soldering through hole components, just heat up the pad and then slowly feed the wire in. This brings us to our sponsor, JLC PCB. From fast prototyping to series production, they offer complete services from manufacturing to assembly for all of your projects. I have been their customer for years and I'm proud to be able to offer an affiliate link with a $70 discount for new users in the description below. Upload your Gerber files. After a while, your PCB will appear in the view. And finally, now you can choose some of the many options that are available. I'm going to choose black solder mask, Enig as my finish, and I'm going to remove their mark. Now I can save to cart and then proceed to checkout. Now, there's not necessarily an order in which you should solder the components. However, we do recommend you first doing the smaller components and then after moving to the bigger ones. You can see us here adding solder to the battery terminal. We're doing this because one time when I didn't do this, the device didn't work because the battery actually wasn't touching the pad. So it's good practice to do this. As far as the socket and the microcontroller go, this is how the orientation should look like. The little notch goes towards the upper side. And after soldering and trimming the excess wires from the resistor, it's time for the battery holder. Just place it as the outline shows and then solder the other ends on the opposite sides. And now it's time for the finishing touches. After soldering the switches, it's time for the standoff for the screen. Be sure to place this before the actual screen because otherwise you're not gonna have a fun time desoldering it. When you place the screen on the standoff, make sure that it clicks into place. And only after that should you screw it on first. Don't over tighten and don't solder before putting the screws in. Soldering before tightening the screws might put additional strain on the pads themselves. And the most important thing is to have fun. If you enjoy what we make, please consider liking and subscribing in the video. If you do end up making one for yourself, please send me pictures on my email. I'd love to see what you make.